Christine Quinn, Speaker of the City Council, is going to be out of a job here in a matter of months. She was elected Speaker back in '06. In fact, she beat Bill de Blasio for that spot. Now, two questions come out of this. Is there an heir apparent? And more importantly, and I think this is the better question, considering how all this shook out for her, that basically her position as City Council, which all of us thought was a great launching point for higher office, didn't work out that way. You can say the same thing about Gifford Miller before her and Vallone as well. What about that? And Dominic, we always used to think that if you were in the City Council, they fought like cats and dogs to be the Speaker, because that's about the only person people would recognize and have some name recognition. But the last three names I mentioned, especially Christine Quinn, to be an effective Speaker, you got to go along with the mayor somewhat, right? And we saw how that played out for Christine Quinn. Is it still as appealing as a gig as it once was?
It depends on how you look at it, Richard. If you're looking at it as a stepping stone just to get your name in the papers, to move up, then yes, it's a great position. But if you look at every recent speaker in memory, going back, let's forget Vallone, Andrew Stein. Yeah. It didn't work for most of them, and many of them were criminally investigated, including Christine Quinn. So there are because you're dealing with 51 members. Some of these members are out of their mind.
Out of their mind.
Completely out of their mind. Yeah. It's your job to
keep
them in line.
They made Congress look like mental.
And it's your job to keep them in line. It's a very, very tough job.
Imagine you got Charlie Barron, God love him, right?
And then you got Councilman Barron. I mean, I can go on and on and on.
From a career advancement standpoint, clearly it's more advantageous to be comptroller or public advocate or be one of these citywide elected, citywide elected positions. And that way you've already faced every single voter. Christine Quinn had only faced her district in Chelsea before she became
If anybody read the Times, people want the gig and they're going to fight it out over it, but the question is, where does it lead from here? This next one, I'm curious, Bill, your take on, because I saw something on Rand Paul. Well, don't even get me started on his politics, but he's making a decision pretty soon that a lot of politicians have to make, but I think the age we're in make it interesting, and the different people making this decision, meaning wife and family. Now, Rand Paul's wife, Kelly Ashby, revealed during an interview with Vogue that she's not so hot on the idea of her husband running for president, saying in part, quote, "In this day and age, it's mostly about character assassination. When I think of the tens of millions of dollars in opposition research they'd be aiming right at us and our family, that's what it's about." Now, this all comes out with, does this type of calculation prevent a lot of many able and willing people from running for office, and more so today than 20 years ago, because you got to figure you're going to have a year of your life, if not more, not only dissected, but nothing is out of bounds anymore. Yeah. I know it comes with the territory, but I got to think it dissuades some people here from saying they want to get in the game.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that it keeps people out. I think about, I'm still sad that Colin Powell never got into the race, and that was a lot, I think, General Powell's wife.
Do you have this talk with potential candidates when you lay out, when they make a decision, not just the economics, but the absence of not only privacy, but what comes with the territory?
Yeah, it depends on the level of the race. If they're running for, assembly or state senate, is not as bad. But if you start to get into U.S. Senate, gubernatorial races, even hot House races, you're putting it all on the line. And some people just say, I'm not willing to do it. Some really bright and qualified people, they don't want to go through it, especially women, because women get ripped to shreds when they jump into the field. It's
and for people who say, by the way, this has always been this way, Bill Brassknuckle, it's different the last 20 years,
It's
right?
different. It's different. And I got to say, just because I've worked with a lot of female candidates do get treated differently. Their clothing, their hair, I mean, they really go through a mill. So I've seen some people decide not to run, some very good people. It's a real factor. It's brutal to go through this process.
And it's the families too in the end, because the kids, everybody wants a good soldier and everybody wants dad or mom, to get their lifelong ambition, but they go through it all. I hate when people go after the kids. I don't care who it is. It's just a cheap shot. And even the spouses sometimes too. I mean, what does they have to do with a campaign? I know it comes with the territory, but I get it. I get why people say thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, I saw, and I won't mention the candidate. I worked with a candidate for high office once, and I came in after a particularly tough week into the person's house, and her daughter was curled up in a ball weeping, just weeping, and I'll never forget it. And it was just, it was just unfair.
Yeah.
It was just bad, and nobody sees that. You know, the public is like, I get that person, but it really has an impact on real people's lives.
And I always remember you told me, Dominic, at least the candidate can fight back and say something. The spouse and the kids, they just got to take it, and they don't get an outlet for it. So that's part of politics that the public doesn't get to see. All right. When we come back, some interesting topics from mostly around our area. When we come back, judge or comic? A judge just resigned from his position in New Jersey in order to moonlight as a comedian. What's that all about? We're going to talk about that and more on our Talk to the Table. So